The Wonderful World of Darklords. Report 24. Davy Jones' Locker. After the mists deposited me in Port Royal, I once again found myself requiring a ship for transport. Like Flint's archipelago, the ocean known as Davy Jones' Locker was filled with hundreds of islands, and limiting myself to one would hardly give me a sense of the domain. Although the governor urged me not to risk encountering the emboldened pirates that traveled the seas, and more than one crew flat out refused to take a woman on board, I was eventually able to find a merchant ship that would carry me. There was further talk of pirates as we began our journey, and in truth, it was something of a relief when a ship flying a red Jolly Roger attacked us before we even reached our first destination. There was no use forestalling the inevitable. The pirates boarded, bringing down the merchantman's crew with shocking speed and ferocity. Although I was able to fell one of the pirates with an eldritch blast, they eventually forced me to surrender at sword point. It was only when the frenzy of battle died away that I noticed every one of the pirates was a woman. Their captain, Anne Bonny, informed me that I had fought well and thus had a choice. Either I could join her crew and replace the woman I had killed, or she would cut my throat and throw me to the sharks. As only one of these options gave me a chance at survival, I readily agreed to join, planning to make my escape later. I thought at first that I had encountered the Lord of the Realm, a pirate queen of the Locker. It was only later, when I saw the black spot on Captain Bonny's palm and learned its significance, that I knew who truly ruled this sea of bargains and betrayals. The Lord. Captain Bonny struck me as short-tempered and paranoid, making for shore at the slightest sign of something in the water. I had no idea what frightened her so, assuming at first that she had run afoul of some other pirate captain, or perhaps the East India Trading Company, and that she feared she would not survive a skirmish. When I inquired among the crew, they were hesitant at first to divulge their captain's secrets. However, her first mate and lover, Mary Reed, opened up to me in hopes that I could help her captain. I had heard legends of the Davy Jones for whom the Locker was named, and thought him to be some local god of the sea and the afterlife, but according to Reed, he was a being of flesh and blood. Centuries ago, Jones had fallen in love with a woman, or the sea, or a woman who was also the sea. This lover had betrayed him, and he had cut out his own heart to ensure that none would ever break it again. With no heart to soften his feelings for his fellow man, Jones became a creature of insatiable cruelty, his features twisting into a form as monstrous as his soul. Jones captains a ship known as the Flying Dutchman, and uses his command of the sea, perhaps a gift from his former lover, to strike bargains with the desperate. He can raise sunken ships from the depths, or rescue the drowning, or, in Bonny's case, sink a gallows-bound ship with her and Reed in its brig, allowing them to swim free. In exchange, after a given number of years for those not on the brink of death, the bargainer must serve 100 years on the Dutchman, attending to Jones's vicious whims. Over these years of hellish misery, with no sport but causing or enduring suffering, the souls become as cruel and as physically inhuman as Jones himself. Legend says that the one who finds Jones's heart can control him, perhaps allowing them to change the terms of their bargain. This was Bonny's goal, and she was livid at my insistence that I could not simply mutter a few arcane words to make the heart appear on her deck. Without this miraculous intervention, her only hope was to search for stories of the heart and to spend as much time as possible on land, where Jones has no reach, and neither does the Kraken he is said to command. The land. As mentioned, Davy Jones' Locker reminded me of Flint's archipelago in many ways, a vast sea dotted with islands and plagued by pirates. Unlike Flint's archipelago, however, the local government is not as greedy for the commoners' gold as the pirates themselves. Some, such as the kindly Governor Swan of Port Royal, evinced a genuine desire to help and protect their people. Others, such as Lord Cutler Becket of the East India Trading Company, whom I never had the misfortune to personally meet, although one of his agents had crewed that ill-fated merchantman, hunger for a greater prize than mere bribes and blackmail. Mary Reed informed me that Becket desired a mercantile empire to rival the Abridged Trading Company. While pirates posed the most obvious threat to these ambitions and were aggressively targeted by the company's fleet, the common people could find themselves in Becket's sights if he believed they could help or hinder his plans. That agent of the company had made a few veiled remarks about the sort of fate a soft man like Swan could expect under Beckett's regime. Curiously, while the pirates' greed has not thoroughly infected the local government, some level of the government's ordered nature seems to have affected the pirates. The crew spoke of the Brethren Court, a sort of nautical thieves guild, with Davy Jones himself as one of its founding members. The court as a whole established a code for pirates to follow, and certain pirate lords commanded fleets that almost functioned as their own personal armadas. Bonnie's Red Jolly Roger identified her as answering to a pirate lord named Mistress Ching. In exchange for protection, Bonnie owed Ching a percentage of her plunder and agreed to certain rules of conduct pertaining to female hostages. This protection clearly did not include Ching helping her captains renege on bargains with vengeful sea gods. Similarly, I do not know whether this honor amongst thieves did not extend to sharing information about a treasure as powerful as the heart, or whether the pirates we met truly had no idea where it might be found. Either way, none were particularly forthcoming. A few, however, pointed us toward other supposed pieces of magical treasure: a trident with the power to break curses, a compass that would lead the bearer to her heart's desire, a map to the afterlife, as well as a swamp witch who might help her for a hefty price. I was surprised by the sheer number of magical items that were supposedly strewn about the locker, and wondered at first whether it merely reflected a pirate's fascination with plunder. Upon further examination, I believe that it has something to do with the heart of Davy Jones. After all, anyone who finds his heart will have all of his power at their disposal, as well as freedom from any debts they might owe him. A prize of such cosmic significance may well draw other lesser treasures toward it, like remoras to a shark. Dread possibilities. Soon after we left Tortuga, a place that seemed for all the world like someone had transformed a mangy rabid mutt in heat into a port city, and Bonnie's luck ran out. We were within sight of the island where we would supposedly find the mercurial bearer of the enchanted compass, with Bonnie threatening to keelhaul me if I could not magically persuade him to help us, when the Dutchman emerged from the waves. I do not mean that she appeared over the horizon. She burst from the sea like a breaching whale, a barnacled horror out of driftwood and sun-bleached bone. Her crew were even more monstrous than I had imagined, each of them seemingly caught midway through some torturous metamorphosis into a sea creature. Mary Reed, panicking, shouted that there was some distance between us and the Dutchman, and we might still be able to escape. An optimistic notion, as we were close enough to count the fangs in her hideously carved bow. Before the sentence had even left her mouth, Davy Jones himself materialized on the deck, mere inches from Anne Bonny, and informed her that he was calling in her debt. Doubtless, Jones was accustomed to seeing his debtors pleading for mercy. Bonny did no such thing, swinging her cutlass toward him with a snarl. Jones caught it in his massive crab claw, chuckling. Bonny turned toward us, clearly hoping that we would leap to her defense. Her crew was too terrified of Jones, however, and I had no interest in protecting the woman who had effectively kidnapped me. Reed attempted to intervene, but as she had been kind to me, and I had no desire to see Jones kill her, I cast Hypnotic Pattern to halt her in her tracks. Rage, horror, and despair filled Bonnie's eyes as she realized no aid was forthcoming. As she returned her gaze to Jones's face, they both vanished from the deck, and the Dutchman plunged beneath the waves. Certain my life would be forfeit the moment Reed broke out of her trance, I leapt overboard and made for the nearby shore. Parting thoughts. After drying off and enduring a surreal and meandering conversation with the bearer of the magic compass, apologies, Captain Bearer of the Magic Compass, I departed Davy Jones' locker. Perhaps Mary Reed will spend the rest of her days hunting for some magical item that will allow her to rescue her lover, or to exact revenge upon me. I wish I had not been forced to repay her kindness with betrayal. Had I not intervened, however, she would have tried to fight Davy Jones, which would surely have led to her death, or to bargain with him, which would have led to even worse. I do not need a mist talisman for my next destination, as my patron has informed me that it is accessible through some odd artifact. I have arrived safely in the sanctum of the wizard Kevin Flynn, and am attempting to discover how to turn on his magical device. I will report further when I make progress in this area.
End of line.
Unlike Flint's archipelago, at least the seafaring crews of Davy Jones' locker battle over potent magical treasures and not mere coin. It is intriguing that pirates may have developed a code of honor from the influence of the local government. Such codes amongst criminals are often referred to as guidelines more than actual rules. But perhaps these pirates value their honor more than plunder. As fascinating as the politics of pirates are, my little servant's description of the magical items scattered through Davy Jones' locker hold the most interest to my person, particularly the compass, an item that points to the desires of one's heart. Many a dread lord of these misty realms would give practically anything to get their hands on such an item. Unfortunately, such desires are often twisted beyond recognition by our ever-present tormentors. One wonders, would this compass point to one's true desires, or merely serve as another form of torment? I theorize these magical items have surfaced through the locker as a way to further torment Davy Jones. They each serve a means to locate his heart, and he must defend it. Such constant vigilance must distract him from his true desires. Regardless, such items should not fall into the hands of pirates, and should be placed in the hands of one who would use them properly. Powerful wizard, perhaps.
This has been The Wonderful World of Darklords. We have no affiliation with Disney or Wizards of the Coast. All music recordings used in this episode are in the public domain and were obtained through museopen.org. Titles and links are in the show notes. Dialogue for Yensid was written by Aslan Rex himself, who you can follow on Tumblr at Darklord Aslan. The Wonderful World of Darklords logo was designed by Haylight Jones. You can find links to their work in the show notes. If you'd like to support the show, look for us on patreon.com or find our tip jar on Red Circle. Thanks for listening.